Hey, Bill O'Reilly here. Welcome to the No Spin News for Monday, May 16th, 2022. Stand up for your country. We got a lot to tell you about today. And some of it's bad, like the shootings. You know, every time this happens in my career, and it seems to break out every 4 or 5 months on a mass level, it's just depressing because it hurts the country in every way. People overseas think we're a bunch of savages. People die, people get maimed in the shootings themselves, and then the politicians run with it in a crooked analysis designed to enhance their power. All of that always happens. It never doesn't happen. So now we're dealing with 3 shootings over the weekend, awful, and that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Now, the one thing that all 3 shootings have in common is the people who pull the trigger are psychotic. That means that they have no feeling for anybody else, and they are violent people to boot. So they hurt you. They don't care. All right, that's what they do. The first shooting in Buffalo was an act of terror. All right, so the 18-year-old who did it is a terrorist. His name is Peyton Gendron of Conklin, New York. Total loon, was under psychiatric evaluation a little bit earlier, a few months ago. So he shoots 13 human beings, 10 are dead. 11 of the victims are black, 2 are white. He hunted the blacks. He went to Buffalo specifically to a black retail outlet and wanted to kill African Americans. So why? Because he's probably clinically insane, but he hated or hates blacks. Now, I'm sure they'll examine him and they'll find out or whatever, but this is an act of terrorism. So I would want the federal government to prosecute this man. Number one, the feds have the death penalty, New York does not. And I don't believe in the death penalty myself, but I'm not imposing my beliefs on the system. So the federal government has a death penalty. Number 2, he's a terrorist. It's not criminal. This isn't a crime of opportunity. This is an act of terror to sow discord among American citizens, which he has. So this guy, and this is what I don't get. I accept the fact that there are psychotics walking around, and no matter what the government does, that's not going to change. Psychotics are going to be psychotics. And in a free society, psychotics are going to have an opportunity to get weapons. And that's not ever going to change. And the government's not going to be able to do anything about it other than provide as much security as possible against psychotics. But this guy's 18. So I have an 18-year-old son, and if he was under mental observation for making threats, as this guy was, Peyton Gendron, believe me, he wouldn't be able to get in a car and drive 200 miles anywhere. I doubt if I'd let him drive 10 miles by himself. But these parents, and there he is, armed and dangerous, and off he goes. So I'd like to know a little bit more about that. So anyway, look, act of terror, psychotic, feds should take it. Second, this is Milwaukee. Now this is a totally different thing. 21 people shot in downtown Milwaukee after the Bucks lost to the Celtics. People took to the streets, bang. 13 arrested, 2 gangs were shooting at each other and whatever, 2 gangs. All right? 10 guns confiscated by the cops. Nowhere in any of the local or national reporter is skin color mentioned. We couldn't find out. African American or Hispanic American, Caucasians, who should know? Is there any racial motive here at all? We'll say. It took them 10 seconds to ID the white shooter in Buffalo shooting blacks. And that was fine. That should have happened because it was racially motivated. What's this? Milwaukee. What is it? They won't say. We suspect it's African Americans, primarily in this shooting spree. Now, a miracle, no deaths. 21 wounded, no deaths. Well, why aren't you telling us who's shooting? You arrested 13 of them. You know. You Milwaukee authorities, Milwaukee mayor, Milwaukee media knows. They know. Nothing. Blackout. Because they don't want to put out that black gangs are shooting thousands of people from coast to coast. They don't want to report it. And it's the truth. Now, this has no linkage to the poor people being shot, who I suspect, in this case, 21, are African American, most of them. I suspect they are. Now, how we came to that conclusion is the geographical location of the shootings in Milwaukee. They are in the black neighborhoods. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll apologize tomorrow. I mean, I don't even know if we'll ever know. We have to. No perp walk here. We don't know anything. It's just maddening. But I know that the media does not want to show black perpetrators. Period. The third shooting was personal. Geneva Presbyterian Church, Southern California, Laguna Woods. Guy walks in, shoots 4 Asian men. Okay, 1 person dead. The guy was David Chow, a Taiwanese of Las Vegas. This was a Taiwanese church. This is personal. Now, they had to put it out because of the names of the victims and the shooter were all Asian. So they put out the Asian. All right, the authorities put that out, and they put out white shooting black in Buffalo, but not black shooting black in Milwaukee. Amazing. Response. Okay. First, President Biden. Go.
I've been receiving updates from my team in the White House that's in close contact with the Justice Department. We're still gathering the facts, while already the Justice Department has stated publicly that it is investigating the matter as a hate crime, racially motivated act of white supremacy and violent extremism.
White supremacy. That's what Biden wants. That's the narrative he wants. Okay? White supremacy. This guy was 18 years old. The psychotic who shot up the store in Buffalo. White supremacy? Was he looking at radical Nazi stuff? Probably. He's a loon. But that's what Biden wants. That's the narrative he wants. White supremacists. Second is Liz Cheney on a tweet. Quote, the House GOP leadership has enabled white nationalism, white supremacy, and anti-Semitism. History has taught us that what begins with words ends in far worse. GOP leaders must renounce and reject these views and those who hold them, unquote. Well, Cheney now knows she's going to lose her race to be reelected in Wyoming, and she's just lashing out at her party, as she lashed out at Trump. Good riddance to her. All right. Third, the media. CNN, Jim Acosta. Go.
Derek, you teed up my next question because, as we mentioned, so many of these mass shooters have been motivated by this insane theory that they need to save the white race. But this idea isn't something that just exists on the dark fringes of the internet. As you know, this rhetoric has been mainstreamed by right-wing media figures like Fox's Tucker Carlson.
Okay, so let's review. So Biden uses these terrible deaths to push his political strategy of demonizing white supremacists who should be demonized, but I'm not convinced there's a huge white supremacist movement, and Biden thinks there is. Second, Cheney attacks her own party because she knows she's done as a Republican congresswoman. Third, Acosta attacks Fox News and Carlson because he knows nobody watches CNN and Fox News wipes them out 4 or 5 to 1 every day. So all three of these people use the deaths, the violent deaths in Buffalo to advance their hatred and their stupid causes. Okay? Just so you know. All right, Biden didn't do anything today. He had a Greek independence thing. He's having dinner with the Prime Minister of Greece. I hope they have fun. I'd like a little baklava myself as dessert if you want to send some over. Now Biden is to Buffalo tomorrow to meet with the families of the victims. Good. I would do it if I were president. I would do it. Biden's doing the right thing by going to Buffalo. Then he should get on Air Force One, go to Milwaukee, right? And meet with some of the family members there, right? No, not going to Milwaukee. I want to go near Milwaukee or Chicago or any of the big cities that black people are losing their lives because black gangs are killing them. But I don't want to go there. Not going. Go to Buffalo. White supremacists there. Not going to drug gangs, African-American drug gangs in Milwaukee. No. What hypocrisy, huh? I mean, I can't lay it out any more vividly than this. I can't. Horrible. Biden job approval, lowest at the NBC poll, and the NBC poll likes Biden. 1,000 adults, Democrat 38, Republican 38, Independent 14. Now, you may have noticed that all the polls are much more balanced now than they used to be. Did you notice that? It's me. I'm the only one in the country who brought that out for the last 2 years, that the polls were rigged because they were asking more liberal Democrats than conservative Republicans. Now NBC, we're going to open it up. We're going to divide it equally. All right? Job approval for Joe Biden, 39%. Lowest number ever. Disapproved 56%. But it's really 61%. But 5% of people won't say anything bad about Biden. They don't like him, but they just won't say anything bad about him because they voted for him. So that's what's going on there. AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, is the leading conservative advocacy and benefits organization in America. I am an AMAC member, and you should be too. AMAC gives you access to exclusive benefits, insightful takes on today's news, and a magazine full of uncensored content that you will not find anywhere else. Most importantly, AMAC is working tirelessly to preserve the freedoms enshrined and secured by our Constitution. AMAC has become one of the most impactful organizations in America because more than just talk, AMAC gets things done. They are pushing back against the efforts to defund our police, weaken the borders, and replace your freedom with government control. But they need your help. Stand with me and more than 2 million patriots and join AMAC today at amac.us. That's AMAC.us. amac.us, and tell them O'Reilly sent you. Now, the reason that Biden is so unpopular in this country now isn't because of white supremacy or that he doesn't do anything in the Oval Office or Putin or Roe v. Wade. It's not. The reason this man is losing the faith of the American people is the economy, and in particular, inflation. That's it. That'll be the main thing in November. In the midterm elections, you're paying 10% inflation going up. It's going to go up to about 12 by Labor Day. Under Trump, 1.4%. So inflation is killing the Biden administration. So I asked myself, find me a guy who could explain why inflation is up in 16 months about 9% over Trump. And we came up with a man named Brian Riedel, who's a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. He's an expert on budget, tax, and economic policy. He joins us now from Mount Vernon, Virginia, where George Washington lived. All right, Brian. You have to explain it so even I understand it. 16 months, 1.4 till about 10. Why?
Well, we're taught in school the basics that inflation is caused by too much money chasing too few goods. And what happened was primarily during the pandemic, the Federal Reserve poured in $4.8 trillion into the economy. 4.8 trillion. Where did a lot of that end up? Mostly in the stimulus bills. We had the CARES Act. We had, even worse, the American Rescue Plan of $1.9 trillion that handed out trillions of dollars in new benefits. What ended up happening, of course, was they did this at the very time when supply was constrained. So you have businesses producing less because the pandemic, their workers aren't there. We're importing less from China because they're shut down over there, but yet we're giving people trillions of dollars with no place to spend it. So when you have all these trillions of dollars, $4.8 trillion in new cash, but businesses not able to produce $4.8 trillion worth of goods and services, what you're going to get is shortages, price hikes, and inflation. And the Biden administration is pouring it on. The American Rescue Plan last year was $1.9 trillion. They were warned at the time that that was going to drive up inflation. You also have tariffs. You have expensive new regulations coming out of Washington that are all piling on and making it worse.
Now, you had the same situation under Trump, though. Trump okayed a lot of payments to people. And the supply was totally shut down in the USA in April of 2020. Everything stopped, but Trump kept inflation at 1.4. How come?
The reason, but a couple things happened. First, the money the Federal Reserve poured into the economy, it took a while for people to spend it. The first month that all the rebates came out, the savings rate in America went from 8% to 32%. So at first, a lot of it was just kind of sitting in bank accounts. Also, a part of the reason it's worse now is at that point, the economy was really dipping and it could actually use a little bit new spending. The thing that made the American Rescue Plan a year ago so dangerous is that the economy was actually recovering. At the time of the American Rescue Plan, we were told the economy was producing $400 billion less than its capacity. It had closed the gap to $400 billion. So what did lawmakers do? They shot a $1.9 trillion bazooka at a $400 billion gap in the economy.
So they flood the market with money, so people have more money to spend, and then higher prices can happen because they're willing to spend. But you didn't say anything about the attack on the oil industry by Biden. So as soon as he did that, the first day he was in office, the oil futures market, which dictates what we all pay at the pump overseas, all over the world, goes, whoa, the United States is going to cut down their oil industry, and they'll have to buy more oil in order to cover the less oil being harvested. So we're going to raise the prices of a barrel of oil. How much did that impact inflation?
That significantly impacted inflation. In fact, gas prices are up 44% in the past year, and there's really no sign of them dropping. Now, a little bit of that is because people used to be driving less during the pandemic. But even compared to before the pandemic, oil prices have gone through the roof. Gas prices are up 44%. And it's in part because, as you say, they're not giving permits to people and to companies.
They're not harvesting oil. It's much harder to harvest oil now than it was under Trump. Okay. Do you believe that Joe Biden has any clue about economics at all?
There's not much sign. He has made so many gaffes on economic policy. If the fact checkers were paying attention, a year ago, he promised that his economic plan would create 19 million jobs, even though there were only 7 million people projected to be unemployed. The fact checkers who were actually paying attention went to town. He has made gaffe after gaffe after gaffe on economics. And on inflation, all he's really talking about is corporate greed causing inflation,
Right.
which his own
And
economic
Putin.
advisors dismiss.
Don't forget Putin, the Putin price rise.
The Putin price.
Putin did it.
Somehow Putin managed to cause inflation that began a year before the war in Ukraine. So there's a time machine apparently in Washington.
Okay, so you would agree with me that Biden just doesn't have any clue on economics, doesn't know the macroeconomics from a microeconomics, inflation from deflation. He doesn't know. But you would assume that his advisors would know, right?
His advisors, in fact, his head of the Council of Economic Advisors is one of my former professors. She's a very smart woman, Cecilia Rouse. And what I have heard about White House deliberations is that the economists in the White House understand that what the president is saying is not true. They understand the greed narrative is not true, but they've been overruled by the political advisors in the White House because the polling shows that people want to blame corporate greed for inflation, as if corporations haven't always been greedy.
I know.
Corporations were greedy when inflation
just
was
got
low.
greedy,
They're greedy now.
All right. Now, I think this is the end of the Biden administration, just like the Carter administration blew up because Jimmy Carter didn't know anything about economics. I think the same thing is in play with Joe Biden. Last word, you think I'll be proved correct?
I think if inflation is not solved, there's very little chance he can survive this. And unfortunately for him, even if inflation does drop, real wages are dropping and people aren't going to get that back in the next year or two.
No, and they have no clue to solve the inflation. Raising interest rates will just strangle the economy into a recession. The Fed knows that. So what a mess. Hey, Brian, we really appreciate your time. Thanks for, and I did understand everything you said. It was great. I really appreciate that. Thanks. We'll talk again, I hope. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Inflation now at its highest level in 40 years. Interest rates skyrocketing. A recession may loom. Our retirement accounts are in real danger. If you want to protect your future, do what I did. Call the only precious metal dealer I trust, American Hartford Gold. They can show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. All it takes to get started is a short phone call, and they will have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or put inside your IRA or 401k. They are the highest rated firm in the country, A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and thousands of satisfied clients. Plus, tell them O'Reilly sent you, and they'll give you up to $2,500 of free silver on your first order. So don't wait. Please call now, 877-444-GOLD, 877-444-GOLD, or text GOLD to 65532. Again, that's 877-444-GOLD or text GOLD to 65532. Okay, here's the final thought of the day. I try to be kind and I don't always succeed. But in life, kindness, number one virtue. Kindness, number one. What happens when you're kind to someone and they take advantage of your kindness? Then what? What do you do? So that's happened to me a number of times. I went out of my way to do something nice and special for someone, took advantage of it. Well, here's what I do. I call them on it. And sometimes that's not kind. I don't yell. I just say, maybe we want to think about this. Write that phrase down. Maybe we want to think about this. And then you tell a person gently, no yelling, how you believe they're taking advantage of you. Because I'll tell you what, most people in this world, most kind people in this world are taken advantage of. They are. I see it every day. It happens to me. To me. And I'm fierce. Still do it. But don't reply in kind, but you should let the people who are taking advantage of you know that you know. And then the kindness recedes a little bit. Not revenge, not retribution. You don't have to earn kindness. You should be kind to people when you can. You don't have to earn it. But when they don't appreciate the kindness, then another factor comes in. You see, it's a little complicated, but I want to tell you about that because I can't tell you how many good people I know who are being taken advantage of. If I see it apart from myself, I tell the kind person. I pull them aside and say, hey, this is what's happening. Don't be a doormat. Thank you for watching and listening to the No Spin News. We will see you tomorrow. If you are stuck in a timeshare and you haven't called Lone Star Transfer yet, what are you waiting for? Lone Star Transfer has helped more than 16,000 happy customers. They are family owned, have a 99% success rate. Their process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. I mean, does it get better than that? The team at Lone Star Transfer will keep you informed every step of the way until you are legally and permanently released from your timeshare. So don't pay another penny for a timeshare you don't use. Get peace of mind today with Lone Star Transfer. They guarantee the release of all liability to your timeshare in writing and in a specific time frame. Give Lone Star Transfer a call for a free no obligation consultation. 855-551-7066, 855-551-7066, or online at lonestartransfer.com.
Bill O'Reilly is back on TV and only on The First. No Spin News, every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern, only on The First.